Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and I know a few days ago I made a video where I titled it Ubisoft is like literally dying out. And I wasn't joking. I decided to look deeper into the actual problem, and lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, without a shadow of a doubt, Ubisoft as a company is quite literally on its way out. Now, I normally don't show like these stock prices because, to be honest with you, things fluctuate all the time. And I feel like a lot of people that show like a 5% drop oftentimes miss when a company is like usually just 100% up for the year, right? Usually whenever there's some crazy stuff that happens, people are like, well, the company's dying because their stock is dead. So in the last like month, ladies and gentlemen, 31% down, right? Now you might be like, whoa, Muda, that's not all bad. When you hit that max button, ladies and gentlemen, Ubisoft at one point peaked around 2018, okay? And then after 2018, the company took a goddamn dive into like values where they're at an actual 10-year low. And obviously for a gamer, unless you're invested, stock price means effectively nothing to you. But if you're Ubisoft's executive team, you're fucking shitting yourself. Because what's happening is the shareholder is going to come knocking down and they're going to start asking you, hey pal, why isn't our investment worth what we put into it? And then they have to explain to them, oh yeah, we're delaying Assassin's Creed, one of our biggest games ever. And by the way, that Star Wars game, yeah, that sold like hot ass apparently. Hot ass in Ubisoft's case is like apparently 1 million copies, which obviously doesn't cover the insane development cost of these rising quadruple A games. But also, it doesn't even cover things like marketing, to be honest. The amount of money spent to make a video game is actually mind-blowing. Now, obviously, in comparison to their big competitors, here's Electronic Arts, okay? You know, they had a little slump in 2009, but oh, lo and behold, they are actually rising up to levels that they have never even touched before. It's actually insane. What about companies like Take-Two? Yeah, they're rising like crazy, actually. You know, they had a bit of a slump. But you know what's going to shoot them to the moon? Next year, hopefully a game launches known as Grand Theft Auto 6 that's going to print more money than Ubisoft is actually looking at for this year that's coming up. It's actually so bad at the company that apparently Ubisoft has actually launched a new branch, a new investigation as to why they're fucking up so bad. So I'm going to just cut the cord over here and I'm going to go over why I personally think Ubisoft as a company is actually dying. So to give you a quick idea, I love video games from Ubisoft. You know, I'm somebody that loves the Assassin's Creed franchise. Like, I've covered it extensively. I've played nearly every mainline game. You know, it's one of those franchises where I've put so much of my time into that I pretty much play every new release, you know, when I reasonably can. Nowadays, for the last couple releases, I pretty much just pick these games up as soon as they hit the sale after launch, which is usually in 1 month at this point, and I just play the game right there and then. So obviously, you know, with these Assassin's Creed titles, if you've played the most recent ones, they've upgraded from actually being in a city, which, you know, when they were making games like Assassin's Creed Unity, Syndicate, those games took place in like Paris and London respectively, and they were really good renders for the time. We're talking about graphics that still hold up to this day. The amount of NPCs on screen alone actually still blow my mind. Like, there is a lot of good stuff associated with those specific Ubisoft games. But let's go on a little forward to games nowadays. Those same games apparently are now just run in countries. So with Assassin's Creed Origins, you play in Egypt, which is a fan favorite. I enjoy it. I thought it was a pretty decent game. Then they released Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which took place in Greece, and obviously, you know, it was a pretty decent game as well, too. Then Valhalla comes out, which takes place in England, and to be honest with you, it feels like one biome throughout the entire game. So this is a website known as How Long to Beat, and if you look at their actual explanation, Assassin's Creed Valhalla takes 61 hours to beat through the main story. And they're not wrong. It does actually take 61 hours to beat the main campaign for this title. But there's a lot of games, Mudahar, that take that much time to beat too. I mean, apparently the new Yakuza game, which I still haven't finished, takes that much time as well. Games that are typically RPGs kind of have a 60-hour runtime. That's almost like a sweet spot. Except the only difference with Assassin's Creed Valhalla is most of that game time, 30% of this hour mark, is actually enjoyable. Everything else is effectively just trudging slop that you have to go through to get your character skill rating high enough to finish level-gated content. For most of the side stuff that's available in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, players will acknowledge that their side quests literally last like 5 minutes at the most. Usually the game has them teetered across throughout the world, and they're just world events that take, again, 5 minutes to complete. There's no traditional side quest that I would really write home about. There's not much in this game that anybody should really be bothering to play. And it's one of those textbook examples of like a Ubisoft open world, right? When we talk about Ubisoft open worlds, we literally talk about, opening up the map screen and just effectively seeing multiple points on a map. That tower to climb, so you can hit the synchronize button and see everything around you, which is what Ubisoft is doing at their company while they're investigating why they're so bad. Or occasionally you'll find like a few landmarks to do a collectathon on, like grab 30 of these artifacts, and maybe you get a cosmetic or a special like 5-second cutscene that probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. These are all aspects of Ubisoft games that are just annoying to play. It's content for the sake of content and not content that meaningfully engages a player in a manner that is reminiscent of older Ubisoft games. There was a time when this style of gameplay was absolutely something that everyone wanted to copy. If you fire up Assassin's Creed 2, I guarantee you, if you give it a chance, you'll probably end up no-lifing that game all the way through. It's because the content in that game, while being an open world, is meaningful, it's engaging, and it's stuff that isn't necessarily going to make you sit past playing the game for 25-30 hours. In the time span it takes to finish Assassin's Creed Valhalla once, you can realistically play through like 2/3 of the Ezio trilogy and enjoy more of your time playing an Xbox 360 game than a current day quadruple A PlayStation 5 Xbox Series X release. So alright, that's my Assassin's Creed spiel right there. And obviously, Assassin's Creed is really important for Ubisoft, which is why they're delaying Shadows. Like, at the end of the day, if Assassin's Creed doesn't succeed for them, that's effectively like Grand Theft Auto not succeeding for Rockstar Games, okay? Every other IP for them is secondary, but the main bread and butter that has put them effectively on the map is Grand Theft Auto. As much as people love Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto will and always be the game that gets more eyes than anything Rockstar produces. And that's kind of the same pigeonhole that Ubisoft has put themselves into. Assassin's Creed is what draws in the honey. But obviously, every other game they release, kind of takes the second banana to it. So the other big thing that I realized why Ubisoft's kind of failing is their incessant reliance on shit like live service games. Now this is Skull and Bones, and if you're looking at these Steam charts to it, guys, 191 players playing 40 minutes ago. And you might be like, but Muda, it's a quadruple A game. Yes, Ubisoft, I shit you not, considers this game to be quadruple fucking A. Now what is a quadruple A game, ladies and gentlemen? I couldn't begin to tell you. Apparently a quadruple A game probably just refers to the amount of money they have to spend. So there's one YouTuber known as NDMyon TV ended up making a video where he talked about how much money was actually spent, allegedly, in games like Skull and Bones. So listen to this one right here. Insane shit, by the way.
We have seen multiple different versions of the game that were each completely different over the years. They said that they were told that the budget that was spent on Skull and Bones, it ranged somewhere from $650 to $850 million over 10 years.
Ooh, $650 to $850 million? Ooh, that's a lot of money spent on an IP right there. And let me tell you, I have made dumb purchases. I think, I want you to think to yourself, what is the stupidest thing you've ever bought? Okay, what is the most amount of money you've ever wasted it? And honestly, if you feel bad about it, immediately remind yourself that this gaming company thought that this pirate game somehow needed to cost $650 to $850 million. Now, I have a hard time believing this, and this is the only guy who brings this up, like it's their source. So obviously, take this all with a grain of salt. But let's assume that this game that got restarted numerous times actually did cost $650 to $850 million over the course of all these years to develop. Just what the fuck is Ubisoft thinking? To give you an idea, this is what the first bit of gameplay looks like for this game. This is back in 2017. The final release does look different than this, but there's one thing about this footage that immediately comes to my head. And it's not Skull and Bones. It's the fact that I'm looking at Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag's gameplay just with a new coat of paint. I mean, honest to God, if you put those games next to each other, you looked at things like this spyglass mechanic, the way the camera is orbiting around the ship, the way the combat is performed. I mean, literally, I swear to God, this is just Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and the Assassin's Creed Odyssey gameplay just put into this engine. So the fact that this MMO is suddenly a quadruple A game, it shows me that it's probably because of the amount of money Ubisoft has put into this, and it certainly isn't the fact that this is innovating in some new form of gameplay. Look, this is one of those things where I feel like the distinction for live service stuff should be made pretty well. I don't think live service games are necessarily a great, like, mega evil, if done right, okay? So a game like Rainbow Six Siege, which is another Ubisoft product, was a game that came out, and the first and foremost thing they did was produce new maps every season, new operators. It had a rough launch, don't get me wrong, but obviously as Ubisoft stuck to something that was actually unique for them, a competitive shooter with destructive walls and dynamic gameplay, which is something nobody else was making, was something Ubisoft, in my opinion, I think now looking at it, got pretty lucky. But obviously it's producing content first and then worrying about the over monetization later. Look, with games like Call of Duty, I know we like to bitch about it, but at the end of the day, think about what you get with a Call of Duty purchase every year. You get a campaign, you get a co-op mode, sometimes it's zombies, sometimes it's special operations, whatever. And then you get a full multiplayer suite with full game modes, maps, weapons. Things change every year. Like, honestly, we can live in rose-tinted glasses, but buying a copy of Call of Duty now effectively gives you the same level of gameplay content as a $60 Call of Duty purchase 10, 15 years ago, right? So the thing about this game is obviously Ubisoft has produced Skull and Bones, and in no way does this innovate on any new gameplay idea. So giving us the gameplay of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, yet with a fraction of the content, day one for the same price, while forcing me to be connected online to play it, is not something that's going to be an easy pill to swallow. So right now, there's 191 people playing this on Steam, and at an all-time peak, it's 2,581 people. Now, sure, you might be like, but Muda, maybe like 200,000 people bought it on on Uplay. I'm gonna get the laughing out of the way already. I'm gonna get that out because I guarantee you this game probably sold less than fucking Concord. I'm not even joking. This might have actually sold worse than Concord. So, Suicide Squad, in comparison, has 167 people playing the game as of 34 minutes ago. And mind you, this dog shit just got a massive content update. Again, the problem with these live service games is producing the same game that we've already seen for 10 years. Like, there's nothing in these looter games that I haven't seen being done in games like Borderlands, which run offline, locally. There's nothing I've seen in, like, Skull and Bones that even rivals the gameplay of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And that shit runs locally on a Nintendo Switch nowadays. So it's insane to see this kind of stuff happen. And Ubisoft is suddenly playing this shocked game where they're like, whoa, I can't believe people aren't enjoying this $70 game that is some live service early access slop we threw up that obviously people don't feel is worth their time and money. So even beyond all of it, the other big failure that they have going for them is a game known as Defiant. So right now, according to Tom Henderson, Defiant is on borrowed time as the player numbers actually decline rapidly. So that's never something you want to hear if you're a game developer or a publisher. But this is a game that exceeded 1 million players in the first 2.5 hours it ever released. So it's actually a record for them, and it was pretty hyped. But nowadays, if you actually look at the amount of people playing this on something like Twitch, it's got 3.1 thousand viewers. Now, Twitch viewers are not a direct correlation to people playing a video game. But generally speaking, when this game has lost so much of its luster, I refuse to believe that there's an actual player base that Ubisoft can sustain a massive AAA free-to-play game off of. But if you look at the actual gameplay for this, what's important is it's nothing different than Call of Duty. Like, at the end of the day, looking at this footage reminds me of a video game I would see as a joke in, like, Grand Theft Auto 5, like, in the single player, like Jimmy playing Righteous Slaughter. Or this is like the game that you would see from like the Metal Gear Solid 4 cutscene where they're talking about propaganda pieces. Nothing in this game is necessarily something that I would consider myself to be excited about, right? And the thing is, Ubisoft believes this is going to stand up and basically be a good competitor in a sea of games where a lot of good stuff, a lot of stuff that people are interested in is all free to play. What stops somebody from just downloading Call of Duty and playing Warzone for free when it's a genuinely better product than what Defiant has provided? And that's just my opinion. We can agree to disagree. Now, obviously, with this game as well, too, what's interesting to look at it is, guys, they're obviously pricing the hell out of it, too. So, for instance, if you look at the actual cosmetics to this, none of them look great, but all of the actual cosmetics are around 1,000 X coins. How much are the 1,000 X coins? Like $10 US. So immediately Ubisoft thinks that we're going to be spending like $10 to buy skins for a game that literally just launched. And it wasn't just like skins. You had the community at the release of this game telling us that, guys, $40 bundles just are not it. So for 3,000 coins, which comes out to $40, there is no reason why you should ever be buying a $40 is a price you could spend to buy a totally different game. Why in the ever-loving fuck would you download Defiant to spend a full indie game price tag on an actual cosmetic for a video game that is played entirely in first person, where you don't really even fucking see the cosmetic to begin with? So obviously, you know, Ubisoft is one of those companies that's already at the helm of the Stop Killing Games project, which is obviously something that I'm passionate about because I think you should own your titles. And even if you look at things like Ubisoft, like people who work in the company, when they're saying stuff like one of the things we saw in that gamers are used to, a bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collections or DVDs. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. Yeah, well, maybe the guy at Ubisoft needs to fucking take the dick out of their fucking mouth and realize that a movie or a piece of music is usually like $4-5 if you buy it intelligently on like digital storefronts. A video game is like $70. That's before taxes. People are a lot comfortable buying a disc for that same price if they at least own the actual data on that disc. Meaning they don't need Ubisoft servers to play a video game, nor do they need to actually, you know, worry that if that game is going to be revoked from a storefront. You know, something like The Crew, Concord, you know, games that people bought for full money. At least in Concord's case, they got a fucking refund. See, this is a game company that already doesn't care about actually wanting you to own your game. And this is something that they would absolutely enjoy. If they could turn every single project they had into a live service where you never owned it, that's the dream Ubisoft will want. But in trying to chase that dream, Ubisoft has effectively ruined their company and has caused them to actually hit a 10-year low. Now, to be honest with you, do I get excited at the thoughts of Ubisoft dying? Yes! And let me explain why I get a little titillation. It's literally because Ubisoft holds so many IPs that I feel like they've left hostage. You know, IPs like Driver, for instance, Splinter Cell, that I hope to God in every way, some other company can come in, grab those IPs, hopefully not Embracer Group, because I feel like anything that goes there dies. And hopefully in some ways, some of these intellectual properties can come back. Because honestly, even thinking of a Splinter Cell game that comes out of the anus reject pus of Ubisoft's company scares the shit out of me. I am dreading the day where I see Sam Fisher's iconic glasses lighting up the actual frame, and it all turns into some open world Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain ripoff, when clearly even Konami gives more of a shit about the gaming industry than Ubisoft has cared in the last 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Ubisoft is actually dying. And I've pretty much given what I think are the solid reasons for why it's dying. And I've done that entirely for free. So, you know, Ubisoft, maybe it's worth listening to the gamers versus keeping your head in the sand and thinking everything is going to be all right and people are going to sub to your shitty subscription fee. Because I don't think that's going to be the future of the company if they keep going down the road. But hey, what do I know? I'm just the target audience for this kind of shit anyways. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like it if you dislike it, I am out.